I think every decision that you make is dependent on the demands of the piece of writing. So it's not a. Sometimes it's a conscious thing. You know, it's certainly in terms of accent, you have to make choices and maybe placement. I don't really know. You'd have to point me at a script, and then I'd say what decisions one made. You know, for this film of mine, in which I also have to appear, you obviously, I think it's an imaginative thing, a journey that you go on, and then the voice follows on behind a lot of the time. So if you're playing Louis XIV, you don't find yourself making a sound that is like in the street now. There's a kind of remove to it, and there's a reluctance to commit to another human being, because you have to retain your mystery or something like that, I think. But I don't know that it's particularly conscious. Yeah, because you know, the women at the court of Louis XIV were, I say merely, but certainly decorative objects. They were not there particularly for their mental capacities, although, as it turns out, you know, when he got connected to Madame de Maintenon, she, in fact, I think, in a way, was a kind of teacher to him, and he found a sort of refuge in her simplicities or her restraint. But beyond that, it was all about how beautiful are you, what clothes are you wearing, where did you buy your fabrics, what jewellery have you got on, how are you going to maintain your position in society. I guess not a million miles away from the problems maybe that the odd female movie star has to face. Never mind women generally. It's still a world ruled by men, for men. I wish Ellen were here now, because, and I think there was a time when she thought she might be able to, but work made it impossible. Well, it was like working with your other half all the time. She and I travelled into the set every day together in the car, and talked about what we were going to do that day and how we would achieve it. And her job was especially complex when I was in a scene, because in a way she became a kind of surrogate director, and I trusted her hugely about whether a take was a good one and we should move on or not. Also, I think if one was going to typecast Ellen in any way, it would be her freedom as a cinematographer, the fact that she's used to holding the camera and moving around. And my film actually anchored her a lot of the time to being an observer. Occasionally we let her loose, but I think it was quite a challenge for her. But no, it's her film as much as mine, definitely. Well, it's impossible. What do? You talk to yourself and turn around and say, how was that? I don't know. What do you think? I was surrounded by actors I trust, and I've got to the point now where I believe that if as an actor you are listening properly, then you might actually respond properly. So it's all about listening to me. It comes down to trust, I think. You know, she and I have an odd sort of relationship insofar as, you know, we acted together when she was 19 in Sense and Sensibility, and that was, you know, her first really big part, and I was playing her love interest in that film. So here we are 17 years later, and it's a different kind of intimacy that they share, but it's a very profound one. And given the, you know, as usual, not enough rehearsal, not enough time, and all the rest of it, it was great to be able to make shortcuts with Kate, because to go back to what I was saying about listening, she is the most wonderful listener on film. She does all her homework and arrives completely prepared, but then she just is an open book. And so you discover as a director that you can use every second that you have of her. No, it was simply to do with something called Harry Potter, which meant that, you know, when I signed up to do it, there were only 3 books written. So then along the way, there's 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and then there are 8 movies, and you're in all of them. So although I was only shooting 7 weeks a year, it just means you can't direct a film. Not really, because it's gone. Yeah, Die Hard was 30 years ago, nearly. And in many ways, Harry Potter feels like 30 years ago. It's a good thing about actors, you know, you take the costume off and leave it behind, really. You're utterly present at the time. I'm just glad that I was part of things that stay in people's memory. I think the great thing about film is that you can drop it. It's a very particular area of concentration and even memory. You know, the lines don't stay with you for very long. You learn them in a very present way. You never know quite what any director is going to demand in terms of rehearsal or retakes or anything. So it's a very big marketplace of energies making a film. You know, doing a part for 6 months, 8 times a week in the theatre is a very different option, and that's the one that's harder to let go of. But film seems to, you know, I think it's part of the glory of film is that it's here and now, and when it's over, it's over. I don't know that it's skill, it's just the sound of a voice. That came to me quite late in the day after they'd filmed it, and so, you know, I wish I'd been able to have a little more involvement a bit earlier, but so you were having to adapt to what was already had already been shot. I would say I love playing comedy. I think there's something called comedy in everything. It's always available. You don't need to make it a gag. If you can make people laugh by recognition of something human, I think that's available to you in whatever the part. Yeah, that was pretty challenging. Those wings weighed 80 pounds, so that when they opened up, it was like a machine in the next room. And so if you ever watch it again, you'll see me being pulled backwards. Yeah. Well, Kevin Smith's a comic hero of mine, you know, one of the funniest writers around. Well, I suppose because I trained at art school before I went to drama school, you know, my eye has been paid for by the tax man in England. 5 years of training the way you look at things, and so I've always that's always been as an actor, and obviously as a director, but as an actor too, I've always had a special relationship with the cinematographer. I mean, I don't interfere, but it was very special for me recently to make a movie with Patrice Leconte, and he operated the camera as well as directing. I've never had that experience before, and that was, I guess, a real affirmation of this weird relationship, or relationships that are involved in storytelling, because he was looking directly down the lens at you, the actor, and I'm very aware of the fact, I'm not even looking at it now, but I'm very aware of this is almost like a human being. It's not so objective.